Hey there, good evening. Welcome to Tips and Techniques for Actors, Authors, and Storytellers. I'm Matthew Arkin, and my guest tonight is going to be the critically acclaimed actor, Reed Birney. He's a close friend of mine, and he is, in spite of that, the winner of one Tony, three OBIEs nominations, winner of an OBIE, Drama Desk winner. Charles Isherwood has mentioned him as the indispensable Reed Birney, saying that he was as vitally moving a Vanya as he is yet to see. And he is my guest tonight. But before we start, I want to remind you all to subscribe to this channel. And when you do, click on the bell icon so you get notifications of upcoming live streams. And also to remind you that this Wednesday evening at 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific, the film on the show that I do with my brother Anthony, Two Brothers Talk About Movies, is going to be The Paper, and we are going to have a special guest joining us on Wednesday evening. So please tune in for that. But without further ado, I would like to welcome one of the funniest guys I know. I hope we don't just laugh through the entire show tonight. Reed Birney. Here he is. Welcome, Reed. How are you? You made it.
I'm so funny.
You got here just in time. Wow. Proto finish. Just so you know, I don't want you to be too nervous. Right now, there are 2 people watching the live stream, but there will be more joining us.
Hello to both of you.
and they ask questions sometimes in the chat. They make comments.
Ask away.
Questions. You're going to hear all about it. But we've got a lot to talk about tonight. I have a lot of questions I want to ask you. And we all know, I hope everybody watching this knows that you are a very well-respected, critically acclaimed actor. And yet I still have to ask some questions before we get into the serious stuff about, I don't know.
How did that happen?
I don't know. Things like this, you know, I have to ask about stuff like that. You know, how do you go from cheesecake to respected actor? How does that happen?
Well, there was like 35 years in between there.
Oh, okay. I thought it was like, for me, that would be like 3 bad weeks.
That was GEMINI. That was a Ken Duncan shoot for publicity for GEMINI in 1978. And that picture, or one like it, was in front of the little theater, now the Helen Hayes, a life-size picture of that.
Huh.
And I am really lucky that in the whole time it ran, that picture was there. Nobody drew anything on it.
Wow. Really? Wow.
Yeah. Because it's just that was the one that was in front of the theater.
That won a Pulitzer, right?
No, it didn't. That photograph did, but
yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But here, this is a little more like
that's more like it.
That's actual acting going on there.
Yeah, look at that. I'm looking at something.
And we all know this guy.
That's Danny Aiello.
That is Danny Aiello.
Yes.
And
yes, this was the thing that sort of put Danny on the map, GEMINI.
Wow.
And I know why you're showing this picture.
Why am I showing this picture?
Well, this picture is interesting. It's the cast and the crew and all the thing.
Oh, there's some guy I recognize on the left.
Behind me is Jeff Daniels, Stage and Screen's Jeff Daniels, who was my understudy.
Wow.
Understudied me and Bob Picardo and Jonathan Hadari lying on the floor, and he was not right for any single part. He was understudying, and he never went on, which I think did not make him happy.
I think, I'm not positive. I think he's gotten over it.
He's doing just fine.
He's doing okay.
Yeah, didn't really set him back very much.
No, he's going to be all right. He's going to be all right. So, I like to ask people, what's your origin story?
Where I grew up and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, and how you got into show business. What made you think, Jesus, that's something I want to do?
I know, really. Cursed day.
Because you'd certainly change your mind now if you could.
Wouldn't you?
Yeah, of course.
I grew up mostly in Delaware, the state of Delaware. And from there, we moved after ninth grade to Buffalo, New York, where I went to high school. And from there, I went to Boston University for 2 years and dropped out to seek my fame and fortune in New York City. So I moved to New York when I was almost 20. I wasn't quite 20. And went to Circle in the Square for 3 months. I had a hard time staying with anything. I left Circle in the Square because I got cast in a children's theater tour doing 2 soft rock musicals, Connecticut Yankee and King Arthur's Court and Swiss Family Robinson, set in America. So it actually wasn't Swiss at all. But I was one of those freakish little kids. Maybe you were too, but though you had a family business thing going. I knew about 5 that I wanted to be an actor. I remember being around 5 and saying to a group of grown-ups, I want to be an actor. And they all laughed at each other and were terrified of this child. There was maybe a week in there where I wanted to be a fireman, but that was the rest of it. So I had my eye on the prize the whole time, and did all the plays in school and all that. Sad.
Willie Loman when you were 13.
Yeah, everything drawn in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I played Jerry in Zoo Story when I was 13.
Oh, is there any footage of that?
I wish to God there was.
Oh, if
Can you imagine?
Yes. Had your voice changed? No.
No. Can you imagine a 13-year-old deciding he's going to essay that role?
Oh, it was your idea?
And can you imagine the school that says, yes, that sounds like a great idea?
Everything about that's upsetting. Everything. Though I wish there were footage. That would
boy.
Yeah. Now, of course, everybody who does a play has the full performance on their phone. So when you do this in 20 years, you'll have all kinds of archival footage to go to.
Hush your mouth. If I'm doing this in 20 years, shoot me. Please. Tell me to stop.
Yes.
Tell me to stop next week.
The acting police could come and get you.
Spare us all.
Up against the wall. We're taking you.
I'm going to be at the home in Jersey with you.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'll be
in an Adirondack chair with a Pendleton blanket over my lap.
Yes. Talking about the good old days. Remember when I was on your podcast? Those were the days.
But what fascinated you about? Okay, let's skip forward to because we all of us have that thing where I want to be an actor. And I remember that when I was a kid, desperately wanted to be an actor, and I still want to be an actor.
Okay. We'll see what we can do about that.
No, but my reasons for wanting to be an actor are completely different now.
Sure, as they should be.
Yeah. So, when we're kids, we think, gee, that looks like fun.
Yes.
But now there are completely different reasons why I do it and what's important to me about it. And times where people say, oh, we're doing this. And I say, oh, well, have fun, have a good time. No, I'm absolutely not interested.
Right.
So what is it now? Like, what was that progression for you? Or what is it now that makes you say, that's something I want to do, or something I want to, is it that you say, yes, that's something I want to say?
Yes, I think that's probably close to what it is. I think the eureka moment when I was 5 was I was at a movie, and I wish I could remember exactly what it was, but it was something like The Thief of Baghdad with Steve Reeves, or Wonders of Aladdin, or something like that, some kind of fantasy thing. And I remember the penny dropping and saying to myself, oh, that's something you can do, for your living. I'm sure there must have been some craving of attention and applause and something back then. I was the middle child of 5. So, any therapist would tell you that makes sense.
Right.
But Yeah, I think as I got older and after I moved to New York and after I was working some, I think I grew to realize that that's not really that interesting, being applauded. I'm slightly embarrassed now by curtain calls. I think what I came
I've seen some of your work.
Yes, as well I should be. And I think I have gotten to the point where, is that a story that's interesting to me? Is that a part that tells a story that I find compelling and will both stretch me and be interesting to hear?
You know, the curtain call thing is interesting. And there was something that a teacher of mine actually told me that I carry with me to this day that helps with that.
Yeah.
Because I feel that same impulse sometimes. And it was after, I forget what show it was, but it was really difficult and we were all exhausted. And I think we weren't happy with how the show went.
Yeah.
Came out and we didn't do the most spectacular curtain call. And he read us the riot act.
Yeah.
And he said, the curtain call is not for you.
Yeah, that's right.
It's for them. And
it's for them.
You have given them something. And they need the opportunity to say thank you. And you need to accept that graciously.
Absolutely. And even more so, I think, when I did Blasted and it was so brutal and so harrowing, I said to Marin and Lou,
Marin, who is also one of my all-time favorite actors.
So brilliant. And Louis Canchelmi too, who was the soldier, and he was breathtaking in the show. I said, I think it's really important at the curtain call that we smile and let the audience know we're all right. I have a hard time with those curtain calls where everybody's like, oh my God, I work so hard. I'm so brilliant.
Oh, you can't do that.
Yeah. It's like, oh, get over yourself. So carrying on that thought that the curtain call is really for them, I thought, and I think for most plays, it's all right to let the audience know, I'm now Reed, and the play is over, and we've had a wonderful time. Thank you for coming, and we're all okay.
Yeah, I did a play several years ago at South Coast Rep called The Whale, which was that kind of play where right. I was shocked afterwards. And yet it was also such an upsetting play to the audience that it was really important to let them know that I was okay.
Yeah.
There was one though. Do you remember when Boyd did Journey's End? Boyd
didn't see it, but I remember when he did it. Yeah.
That they did an amazing thing in that production, and I think they did it because they were making such a statement about the war and that going on at the time, and
still going on.
That's right, it is still going on. And what they did, and at the end of Journey's End, spoiler alert, everybody dies at the end of Journey's End. The curtain call was everybody coming out, and the curtain came up, and they were all in tableau, each one as the character they had played in tableau, brought back to life. Curtain came up, and they didn't break tableau.
Mm-hmm.
And then the curtain went down. So you never saw them not in character. But that was an artistic choice that was for that play at that time.
Right.
Incredibly valid. Let's show some pictures from Blasted, because that is a show that has gotten such acclaim. And you can tell us a little bit about what's going on in some of these here. There we go.
Yeah. A lot of laughs.
This was one of my favorite hysterical moments.
Yeah. Oh, they just howled.
Yeah.
Howled and howled. Yeah.
Another.
Yeah.
Honey, what's
I've had my eyes sucked out at that moment, so I'm blind. Just to give it a little context. What else are you going to do but put a gun in your?
So that's why you're mistaking the gun for Twinkies.
Let's see how this tastes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Still eyeless.
Still eyeless. Yeah, this is the end of the play. That's the very end of the play, which seems slightly comic looking at it here, but it's a real sort of Beckett moment, needless to say. Yeah. I've tried to kill myself by crawling into this grave that has been dug, and thinking that I'm going to die because I haven't eaten or anything, and then it starts to rain just on me. It's hilarious, and revives me, and I think my response is shit. And then Marin comes back and feeds me. This is the moment where this is literally the end of the play. And I'm such a terrible human being in this play. And the last moment of the play, after she feeds me and gives me some gin, I turn to her and I say, thank you. And I think it's one of the most life-affirming moments in a play I've ever experienced. It's just such a beautiful, beautiful piece of writing.
Wow. Happier times.
Happier. This is early when I'm trying to get her to sleep with me.
Ah.
Yeah.
How's that working out for you?
Not so good. Not so good. She's not interested. I don't know why.
Well, maybe this will help.
Maybe. Well, she's really asking for it if you ask me. I mean, come on.
Oh, God. Oh, dear.
Yeah. Now, this was an interesting play for me because I'd only ever really played sort of generally nice guys up to this moment.
Right. Yeah. Well,
they asked me to play the part, and I read the play, and I thought they'd made a terrible mistake. I thought it was as silly as if someone had asked me to play Stanley Kowalski. And on page 3, I take off all my clothes, and then I get my eyeballs sucked out, and there's all this. I get raped with a gun, and I thought, I don't think I can do this. I really don't think I can do this. And then I thought, well, they're not asking me to do this to do me a favor. This is a big show for them, and if they think I can be good in this, who am I to say I can't be? So I should do this. It scared me to death. And that was really the reason I wanted to do it, because it scared me so much. So the third day of rehearsal, I took off all my clothes and I didn't die. And so I thought, okay, good. Let's go. Let's do this.
How were the other people in the room doing?
Well, you can't talk to any of them. They're all they all lost their ability to speak.
Yeah. No modesty garment. No.
Nothing. We barely knew each other's names.
Wow.
No. It was incredibly liberating, and it was the first time I got to sort of go to the dark side as an actor. And I realized, oh, this is the part I've been waiting 40 years to play. And I would never have gone to see Blasted and say, why wasn't I seen for that? It would never have occurred to me that that was a part I would do. And then the next part I did after that, right after that, Playwrights Horizons, I was back to being sort of a nice priest. And I was sad because I thought, oh, Blasted didn't make any difference. And, I'm back to my usual hijinks. And a friend came in and said, oh, no, it's still there. It's informing the stuff now.
Interesting.
And so that was very comforting.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, let's go. There's a couple of other things that I want to share so that we can get really into some of the serious stuff now.
You'd like that, wouldn't you, baby?
1,000 guys would give $1,000 to have dinner with a girl like that. Just look at that guy.
I'm not that kind of girl.
Well, with a little practice, you could learn to be.
Oh, now, wait a minute, Cupcake.
Nice tie. Ooh, $76.
Okay, here's 40. We'll pretend that I had the appetizer.
Call me a sport. I'd call you a heel. So I'm a heel. So what of it? Who are you? Maybe I'm just a guy who hates heels. Maybe I'm a heel who hates guys who hate heels. Oh, yeah? Well, maybe I'm a guy who...
Loser.
Oh, the eye.
And we're back.
I thought you were going to show the whole movie. That's on AFI's 100 Best Movies of All Time.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
There we go.
You want an explanation of what we've just seen?
But I think it stands alone.
It's crystal clear.
No, I wanted to show it because
Because you're mean.
Because I'm jealous of you.
You hate me.
I want your career.
No, you don't. Yeah. Well, I'm impressed you found the version with the sound slightly speeded up where we all sound like gerbils. That's pretty good.
It was trying to do something.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, do we want to give a little context to our two viewers?
Please, four now. We have four people. Yeah.
Four. We've doubled. That's a movie called Crime Wave that Sam Raimi, famous Sam Raimi, directed. It was his first movie after The Evil Dead. And it was sort of a studio picture. It was a big step forward for Sam and his producing people. And that's Bruce Campbell in there, who slugged me, who had been the star of Evil Dead. Now, they had written the movie. Joel and Ethan Coen wrote the script with Sam. So it's all pedigree, eventually. It wasn't at the time. And they had written the movie for Bruce to play my part. And the studio, Embassy, wouldn't let Bruce play the part because he wasn't famous. Question is, where did I come in?
On the other hand,
yeah,
Birney, ladies.
International superstar. I had done the Arthur Penn movie For Friends a couple of years before and had gotten a lot of very nice reviews.
And that was a spectacular movie.
Well, it's some people it's their 10 favorite movies of all time, and other people still hate it so much. But anyway, I mean, it was very controversial at the time. But anyways, because of that, I had a little bit of cachet, which quickly dried up. But anyway, also very interesting is that they had cast somebody else in my part before me who wasn't famous. I don't know why they cast him, but they just didn't want Bruce. And this guy had been cast, and he went over to the casting director's house, this lady, with a bottle of champagne to celebrate his being cast in the lead in a movie. And he showed up at her house in the middle of a huge fight with her and her big scary boyfriend. and he got in the middle of it, and the big scary boyfriend punched him in the face and broke his cheekbone. So this guy was out, and they needed somebody fast. So I got the call, I think 2 days before shooting started.
Wow.
To fly to Detroit and meet Sam. They didn't really have time to cast anybody. So that's one of the reasons I was put in it. But to this day, fans of Sam and Bruce will just search the internet. They are still horrified and outraged that Bruce didn't get to play the part. And who the hell is Reed Birney? And who the hell does he think he is playing this part? I mean, it's now, that was 1983. It's coming on.
Wow.
40 years.
They need to get over it.
They need to really relax.
They need to get over it, or they need to talk to that little old lady that we bumped into in the subway that
that homeless lady.
The homeless lady who called us the two best actors in New York.
In New York. She was off her meds that day, I'm afraid.
And she both made our day and ruined it at the same time.
Terrible.
Yes.
I've forgotten that, Matt. Thanks for bringing that.
That was a great day. It
was a great day
in my life.
It was at the Sheridan Square, Christopher Street subway stop.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was a clip from Crime Wave. Big set piece, as you can see. The movie is like an Alfred Hitchcock movie meets the Three Stooges. And it's not very good. And Sam and the Coen brothers have all disowned it. Of course, the one that I'm the star of. They have, I think Sam was quoted as saying, "I wouldn't use Crime Wave for porno filler."
Well, but I do have to say, as somebody who's seen a lot of your work, I have to say, I want to share this story with the viewers about your work.
Okay.
Because this is a true story, and I think there are very few actors I could tell this, that I could say this about. You know that I'm quite fond of my own work. I have no problem being fond of it.
Famous for it.
Yeah. Ask anybody what I think of my work. I saw you in Circle Mirror Transformation, which is a spectacular play and a spectacular performance, and then was offered a production of it out on the West Coast. And my response was, "Oh, no, thank you. I saw that role done, and I'm not going to try that role after seeing Reed do it."
It's a wonderful play.
It's a wonderful play, but your performance, there are certain performances that you see. There are lots of great plays with great performances, and I watch them and I say, that guy was great. He was spectacular. I would do this.
Yeah.
Your performance in that play, I looked at and said, no, that belongs to Reed. Yeah.
So they should never do that play ever again.
Well, what's interesting is I went to see it, and the guy who they cast,
I think I know who they cast.
Thought he was even better. No.
All right.
No, he was actually he was also spectacular and quite different than you.
It's a great part. It's a great part.
No, the person I saw do it on the West Coast was Ari Gross.
Ari Gross, right?
And he was spectacular.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because I couldn't imagine seeing that play again with a different cast, and yet the people they cast in it was a different play, different production, fully realized.
Yeah.
And also, the wonderful Linda Garinger played Deirdre's role.
Right. Okay.
Maren Hinkle.
She had come and done a workshop of it with us early on in the part that Heidi Schreck ended up playing.
Right.
So she had sort of dipped her toe into the world of the play.
Such a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful play.
Yeah, I was so lucky to have that play.
Yeah. What do you do I want to get back to talking a little bit about craft, such as it is. You've done a lot of stage,
Yeah.
and a lot of screen, and I have students who are trying to straddle both worlds or make choices between the two.
Uh-huh.
And I have a lot of students who say to me all the time, "Oh, you're talking about stage acting. I want to be a film actor." And I have certain thoughts and feelings about that. But before I reveal those, what are your thoughts and feelings about
I think our feelings are probably pretty similar. I don't think they're different at all. I think I think telling the story is telling the story. And maybe there's a technical adjustment that has to be made. When you're doing a play, you have to be sure that the back row can hear you, whatever size the theater is. But I think if you're telling the truth, it doesn't matter. I think you are able to go from one to the other.
What do you think of when people talk about, but the size is so different?
Yeah, there is. I suppose, you can just do it with a look in a movie. But again, I think if they're talking about a performance being too theatrical, it's probably pretty hammy and phony baloney. People get big in life. People do big things. And, Jack Nicholson has done some very big things in movies.
Yes.
And Robert De Niro has done some very big things in movies. And, maybe they're hammy, but nobody says they're stagey.
And I think the reverse is also true. I think you and again, I feel like you are, and I'm certainly on stage. The play that landed me in New York, I did nothing. I did nothing. I mean, that was basically a film performance I was doing.
Yeah. Yeah. But I don't think you should
I don't mean
it in that way, because I think it probably was a truthful performance.
Well, but that's what I mean. It's like I point to people, I say to students, I say, look at Jeff Daniels, to bring him back in the newsroom. When he would walk into the newsroom and say, "I'm just here as a spectator," or Sam Waterston in scenes in the newsroom. Again, huge, but appropriately so.
Right, because people do that. People get big.
Yeah.
So I think when they say a film performance is stagey, I think they probably mean it's hammy.
Yeah.
A little ham bone.
I talk to these, people at university who talk about the difference between a stage acting program and a screen acting program. And my objection to that is always, I think, the screen acting program should be one course.
You mean the acting, there shouldn't be a separate one?
No, and all the rest of it is acting.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. And the real trick is getting people to be truthful, and they can learn to project, or they can learn to bring it down for the camera if they need to. But the truth is that I think a lot of people don't really understand what the job is. I think that they spend a lot of time in their acting, and big movie stars, trying to fill the unfillable hole. And so there's a lot of energy that's, look at me, love me, give me attention. And sometimes they win prizes for that, for their big fakey acting. But because we watch them and we see them jumping on couches like no one in real life ever does. And we think, oh, isn't that wonderful? I wish I could jump on a couch. It's so thrilling to see him jump on that couch. I'm more interested in the person who wants to jump on the couch and can't. And where does that energy go when you, like most people, don't allow yourself to jump on a couch?
Are you making fun of my performance in Moonlight and Magnolias right now?
Yes.
Because I did jump on the couch.
Well, I'm sure it wasn't your idea. I'm sure
it actually was my idea. I made the mistake in rehearsal one day of my character Ben Hecht was supposed to be in as angry as he could possibly be at Doug Sills, who was playing David O. Selznick.
Right.
And I jumped up on the couch, took my pants in rehearsal. I jumped up on the couch, took my pants off, and threw them at him. That's the only way I could think of as expressing how
your rage,
painful and filled with rage I was.
Yeah. Did it stay in the performance? I forget.
And after we finished the scene, I turned to Lynn Meadow, the director, and I said, "I'm sorry, it was stupid. I was just trying something." And Lynn's response was, "Oh no, it's in." And he picked up the stage manager's notepad and showed me that there was already a note from the stage manager to wardrobe to get period underwear for Mr. Arkin.
Well, moments of divine inspiration.
Yeah. So be careful what you do in rehearsal because it may end up in the show.
Yes. Real words to live by.
Yeah. Be ready to go.
Yeah.
I mean, I really think there's just that one course that actors need in the extreme close-up.
Yeah.
That's about it.
But I think what you learn in the class with the extreme close-up is how little you have to do.
Right.
And I think that is actually true for all acting, that, you can let the play and the character come through you with the words. And for you to be trying to act on top of it is a hat on a hat. And when you just get out of the way and let the play happen through you, we're so used to seeing fakey acting when we go to the theater or even movies. And so we've come and people win prizes for it. And so we've come to accept that that's what acting is a lot of times, so that when people, for example, go, we say to ourselves, "Oh, they're sad. Okay, I understand what's happening in the story. He's sad or she's sad," and we can go forward. Meanwhile, they feel nothing. But the story's being told, and when it's over, everybody's like, "Yeah, that was good. Where do you want to go eat?" And when you actually see somebody who is moved and devastated and exhibiting honest, real behavior, it takes your breath away because you instantly recognize yourself and the human condition. And we're just not used to seeing that so much. One of my favorite examples of this is Judi Dench in the movie of Philomena, where she's an Irish lady who'd given up her son, and years later she's come to America to find her son that she's given up. And there's a shot of her riding through the streets of Washington, D.C. in the back of a taxi cab at night and looking out the window. And she's just sitting there, and it's devastating. And she's not doing a thing except being that lady.
Yeah. Did you see a show this past year called Unbelievable about the young woman who was raped and not believed?
No.
Whole police investigation. And spoiler alert, Eric Lang, do you know his work? Spectacular. Had one of my top 10 favorite actor moments where the show's, it's two parallel stories: a young woman who's raped and she's not believed, and they end up charging her with false reporting.
Okay, yeah.
She's had some problems in the past with the law, and she's been in foster homes, and she's kind of a problem child. And the cops don't want to, but she keeps changing her story. But the reason she's changing her story is because people are like, did that really happen that way? And so she's like, okay, it didn't, because she's used to people not believing her.
Right.
And then in the meantime, in another state, there's these cops investigating a serial rapist. And when they catch him, he's kept trophies of all of the women who he raped, which was photographs of their driver's licenses on their bellies.
Oh, wow.
He's kept all of these. And they are able to account for all of them except for one, which is out of state. And they call Eric Lang's office and they say, hi, we've got some information that we think is going to help you out with this, with a case of yours. And he says, which case is that? And they say it's the so-and-so case. And he says, oh, no, that's closed. I'm really, it's a sad story, actually. We had to charge her with false reporting.
Oh, my God.
And the female detective on the other end is holding this photograph in her hand. And she says, are you at your computer? And he says, yeah. And she says, I'm going to email you a file. Let me know when you got it. And she sends it, and you hear his computer ding. And she says, you get it? And he says, yeah. And she says, open it. And they have this shot of him where he opens the photograph and he sees the photograph of the girl's license on her stomach. And all he does, it's just a shot of his face, and he opens the file. He doesn't move. His facial expression doesn't change. He doesn't do anything you could point at, and you see the guy's whole life dissolve.
Right.
Not because he's going to get fired or anything. It's just he realizes he fucked up,
right,
and ruined somebody's life. And I'm sitting alone in my living room, and I screamed. And I just went, "Oh my God!" Just watch an act.
When those moments happen, that's what you do, because it's so profound. Are recognizing a fellow human being in such a deep way. And that's the dream of what we do, is that we're able to have moments where, and it's indescribable. Like you say, you can't say, oh, he did this thing. He just was living this moment.
Yeah. Jelko Ivanek was another actor who allows those things.
Who is? What's his name?
Jelko.
Jelko. Yeah, of course.
He allows those things to, and it's just, that is what's devastating.
Thrilling. Yep.
To watch.
And it doesn't happen very often. And so when it does, we in the business are devastated by it. But the really cool thing is when civilians are too.
Yeah.
Because they don't really have the vocabulary to be able to articulate like we are what they're seeing. They just know something big just happened to them. It's great.
Favorite actors to work with other than me?
Have we actually worked together?
We've never even done a reading together.
No, I didn't think so. Well, you would be the first person on the list, of course.
If it ever happens.
If it ever happens. Oh, well, I loved all those people in Circle Mirror, Peter Friedman and Dee Dee O'Connell and Heidi and, Tracy Chimo. That was really thrilling.
Deirdre, I got to work with Deirdre once, just for a week.
Yeah.
And adored it.
Well, there's nobody like her, and she's such a beautiful person. So just being in her presence in the room is already a huge gift. And then, her work is so spectacular. It's really the dream, to work with somebody like that. Who else? I mean, I've worked with a lot of wonderful actors. I've worked with some real dumbbells too, and duds. But
well, do tell.
No, we'll do that another time. But it's people. I mean, they're great people and they're bad people, and you never know first day of school when you show up who's going to be in the room. So when it turns out to be a really delicious group of people, it's kind of miraculous.
What do you think about, and again, a topic that I have a lot of my own feelings about. Do you have a particular way that you approach a role, or do you bend the approach to the demands of the role?
I think it's a combo, but I think mostly what I try to do is find my version of that guy, the one that comes. This is how I sort of explain it to my students: is you read the script, and there are specifics that the text tells you. He's from Ireland. He's got one leg. He had his eye poked out. His mother beat him. You know what I mean? All the specifics that the script tells you.
And then you have to find the stuff that's not like you.
And well, yes, exactly. The big stretch parts. But you put all that sort of into the computer, and then when you're riding the subway to work and you're coming home, you let the computer take over. And I sort of come up with an image of the guy based on that information. And then the real trick, I think, is to get out of the way and let the computer, my instincts or whatever, bring him through me. And because it'll be through me, even if I steal a moment, if I think, oh, that moment, it would be great if I did it like that thing and steal something. People steal from each other all the time. But because it's me doing it, it will then be transmogrified into my version of that moment. And when I steal a moment, it's like I want the effect that moment had on me. I want to try and duplicate that effect. But mostly it's just getting out of the way and letting the character come through me.
Are you a big research guy?
Sometimes. I played Lee Harvey Oswald. I think you have a picture of that. And
do I?
I know I sent it to you. But I did an enormous amount of research to play Lee Harvey Oswald. And I read the Warren Report, and I went to Dallas, and I met people who knew him, and I knocked on the door of the house he was living in on November 22nd, and did all that. And that was really, really fun and useful. But unless it's a real person, I don't generally do a lot of research.
Mm-hmm. I like to do silly research. Like I just did Sisters Rosenzweig.
Oh, you did?
And when he makes his entrance, he shows up at this house on Queen Anne's Court in London. And he talks about the hotel that he's been staying at. He's staying at the Savoy.
Right.
And then he goes to I'm forgetting the name right now of the famous clothier to pick up the shirts. And then, so he left the hotel and he went to the shop to get the shirts, and then he walked to Queen Anne's Court.
Right.
And there's not a lot going on in the guy's life at the time. So there's not all this homework you have to do on where he is in his life. And he shows up, and then the play takes, off for him anyway.
Right.
He meets this woman and falls in love with her. So what I did was, and this was so much fun and it's a beautiful day when he shows up and he talks about walking there. So I went to Google Earth, and because they've had cars drive all over the planet, you can go at street level. So I went to the hotel and I took the walk on Google Earth.
Very cool.
To the clothing store.
Yeah.
And then I took the walk from there to Queen Anne's Court. So I was able to see, without going to London, what his walk was like. The park that he walked by, the shops that he passed.
Yeah, I do that stuff too. That stuff is fun.
It's so much fun. Yeah. And then my students say, so are you thinking about that before you go on stage? I say, no, because I've had the walk.
I don't have to think about it.
It's in me.
I know what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's I love doing that kind of little silly.
Yes.
And also the fun of researching every word that comes out of your characters, because I'm struggling with my students all the time and saying, that person you just mentioned, do you know who that is? Oh, no. I'm like, well, the character does.
Maybe
the character just said, "I love that Bob Dylan song. Have you listened to it?" Oh no! I'm like, well, your character has, so maybe you should listen to that Bob Dylan song.
Yeah. Yeah, that stuff look, I'm all I'm interested in now really is having fun. And I personally don't think that acting is very mysterious. I think the effect that it has is mysterious. But I think that the act of doing it is really just fantastic pretending. And it's exactly the same thing you did in the sandbox when you were 5 years old. And when you were in the sandbox at 5 years old, you were operating at 400% imagination. You never for a second thought you really were the King of England, but you were happy to play the King of England. And if your sister jumped in the sandbox and said, there's a monster coming, you didn't say, give me a minute, I need to work on that. You just went with it. You just were living it. And so I think one of the problems that happens when we become professional is that the fun goes out of it. And everybody's so worried about doing it right. Am I acting it right? I don't want to act it wrong. And I don't think there is a way to act it wrong unless you're not pretending well.
Right.
The problem is we're trying to act naturally in an incredibly unnatural situation. And so self-consciousness, as we grow up, people say, stop showing off or stop being so loud, and you become self-conscious and you start to develop armor. And so any kind of acting technique, I believe, is to sort of get through that armor, whatever it takes, if it's Uta Hagen or Sandy Meisner or Lee Strasberg or whatever. But the problem I feel with a lot of those protocols is that they get you in your head too much.
Yeah.
And you're constantly watching yourself saying like, well, did I do my repetition right? Or and so you can't possibly be in the moment and be alive because you're watching yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the death of it, I think, is this sense of like, get a load of me, get a big stinking load of me. I got a moment coming up. Wait till you see what I do, as opposed to just like, oh, I'm alive in this moment.
Is that your agent calling?
It's the front desk. I think can I just run and get this?
Yeah, go get it. I'll chat with the audience for a little while. If there's any of you out there, if you have questions for Reed, we are live, so happy to take any questions or comments while we're going on here. And Reed's in quarantine right now up in Vancouver, getting ready to shoot a few episodes of a show that he's doing up there. So he's been in quarantine for 7 days, and he has 7 more days of quarantine. 7 more
days, yeah.
So we're going to.
I think I could go to jail now and probably be all right.
Yeah, but we're going to keep this. We're going to keep this conversation going for another 7 days to try and keep Reed sane. This fellow, there's somebody here, some guy who obviously is trying to get a start in the business, wants to know, how do you get agents?
Well, good luck, Anthony. I don't know. I don't know how anybody gets an agent. Now they're knocking on my door. Just all right.
Well, that's my brother. How are you, Anthony? Are you looking forward to talking about the paper on Wednesday night? This is my brother, Anthony, and we have our show, Two Brothers Talk About Movies, and we're talking about the paper. And Reed is back now.
I'm back, and no more distractions now.
Anthony.
How do you get agents?
I know how I got my last agent.
Well, like everything in the business, it's so quixotic. I got my first agent. The first person I worked with was Jeff Hunter. Remember Jeff Hunter?
Oh yeah.
Because Frances Sternhagen was a family friend of mine, and I had just moved to the city, and she sort of set up a meeting, and they said, "Oh, we'll work with you." They really weren't interested in kids then, in young people. This was sort of before the Brat Pack. So, I thought I had an agent, and there was a job coming up. There's something I wish I could even remember, with A Part for a Young Man, And I called him up and I said, are you going to submit me for that? Like, no. It's like, well, why not? Well, we don't know your work. And I'm like, so what does this mean? You're working for me. Well, we'll send you up for regional theater, and we're not sending you up for a Broadway show.
Oh, wow.
Awful, terrible people.
Oh,
I think the truth is that whoever is going to be your agent is going to have to be somebody who has seen you in something and fallen in love with you. That's really how it's going to work best. You can have sort of relationships that are less, you met at a bar or you met at a party and they love you and they want to start working for you. But until they see you in something and fall in love with your work, I don't know that anybody's really worth much.
I had the luckiest happenstance of getting my new agent several years ago.
Do we want to hear this story?
Well, I was in LA and things were very slow for me. And
Yes.
I was driving Uber.
Yes.
And I picked somebody up
Yes.
who knew my work from New York
Wow.
and asked me what the hell I was doing driving an Uber.
Wow. And they slipped the card through the window.
And yeah.
That's great. Well, that's what I mean. It's
And
so
it completely
so
changed everything
unbelievable.
around for me in LA.
And they've been great, huh?
Yeah.
That's what I mean. There's no book that's going to tell you how to get an agent. It's just like everything in the business, it's being in the right place at the right time. And then you have to be ready when the opportunity comes to follow through. There are so many people that were discovered in parking lots and whatever, and they had an opportunity and they weren't any good. And that was the end of that.
Yeah. What do you do off stage? Because I think this is so important for all of us if we're going to be good at our craft. What do you do off stage to feed yourself?
You mean just to feed the soul?
Yeah.
I think it's really important to live your life in a sort of full way. I think when you are only caring about show business and about acting, I think you have a very small world, and therefore you are really not in a position to show anybody anything about the human condition. I remember when I was really young, I was doing a showcase with my acting class, and it was 3 performances on a weekend, and I had to miss Saturday night because my brother was getting married, and which was an incredible pain in the ass for the production. And one of the girls in the acting class, I didn't know her very well, she came up at one point and she said, "Are you missing a show?" And I said, "Yeah, my brother's getting married, I gotta go to this." And she's like, "I would never miss a show." And I thought, okay. She dressed all in black and was very goth. Never heard of her since.
When my ex-wife, I was married at the time, obviously, my wife was pregnant with our first child, and I was doing the Sunshine Boys on Broadway with Tony Randall and Jack Klugman.
I've heard of them.
And the stage manager told me a story about Tony coming, who I loved, great man, incredible actor, but he came into the theater and asked her, she went to him and said, "I just want to let you know the understudy rehearsal for Ben, for the role of Ben, the understudy rehearsal went very well. He's ready to go on." And he said, "Why are you telling this?" And she said, "Well, he's going to be going on sometime in the next couple of weeks." And he said, "Why?" And she said, "Well, because Pamela is due like in the next couple of weeks. The due date is next week. So Matthew's going to be, missing several performances." And Tony said, "I've never missed a performance." And when I heard that story, I thought, wow, that is sad.
Sad.
Because I would not want to have a life in the theater and never have anything happen that was more important than my performance.
And missed your son's birth.
Yeah.
I mean, it's insane.
But then, of course, when my wife was in labor, she started labor on a Wednesday morning.
Oh, God.
We went to the hospital, and it was that early labor where they're like, go away, have a glass of wine, you'll be back late tonight. So she came to the theater with me because we didn't want to be apart. So she came to the theater. She was in my dressing room, which was 3 stories up this, this circular stairway. As she's in my dressing room having contractions, and every time they were off stage, Tony and Jack are running up the stairs checking on her.
Oh, well, that's
running back down. They were so lovely. And there was there was a story on page 6 in the Post when he was born. And we have that framed.
Yes.
Little Sam Arkin was,
as it should be. Yeah. Well, I think that's a very antique notion. I know Marion Seldes never missed a show. I don't think you want to talk to her daughter about what it was like being her daughter. So I don't know what kind of prize you get for never missing a show.
But God bless Marion Seldes. I remember hearing somebody coming backstage after a show and saying, Marion Seldes is in the lobby and she wants to talk to you. And you've had this experience, I'm sure. And I walked out into the lobby and she did the full down to the floor bow.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh my God. Wow. Oh my, it was flexible. Yeah. And it was later that I found out that's how she greeted people after.
Well, here, I'll tell you a story about that I think is interesting. I was doing a play with her, and we went to a final dress of a Broadway show, The Best Man. It would have been 2000 or 2001. 2000. And while we were waiting, as they were late starting, almost it felt like everybody in the audience came up to her. Homeless people that have wandered into this dress rehearsal and producers, and everybody came up to acknowledge her and give her her best. She clearly had no idea who most of them were, but she was doing the equivalent from her seat of a full curtsy. And so I walked her home to 57th Street afterwards, and I said, that's such a remarkable thing that you do. And she said, but darling, don't you know when you're introduced to somebody and they don't have any interest in you? Don't you know how terrible that makes you feel? I'm just trying to avoid that for people. And I thought, well, good on you. I mean, it's almost a cartoon, but it's such a generous gesture.
Yeah.
On your part.
And I had a friend who was a huge soap opera star. And he was not crazy about his work on the show, and it was sort of chagrined him that he was, famous for this
crummy show,
and couldn't go outside without being accosted constantly. And we would go to dinner and we would go to the movies, and it was constant. And he was never anything less than incredibly kind and gracious to every single person. And I said, gosh, how do you do it? And he looked at me, he said, I don't have a job without those people.
Well, it's a little bit like the curtain call situation, isn't it? That when somebody comes up to tell you how much they love your work, for you to be like, I'm so shitty on that shitty show.
Yeah.
Is mean.
Yeah, it's complete. It's insulting to them.
Yeah,
it's saying you're an idiot.
You're an idiot for liking me.
Yeah,
and so
I think that's why everybody who comes up to compliment me, I tell them they're an absolute genius.
So you have excellent taste.
Well, listen, this has been it's always a joy to talk.
So much fun to hang out with you.
I'd even to hang out with you not on the show.
What? Well, I don't know when I'll see you in person. Someday.
Well, when you get back, Mom and I want to have you over for a distance to dinner on the deck when you get back.
That would be really lovely.
Yeah.
But this has been really wonderful to hang out and gab, and I hope it was interesting to the audience, however many.
I don't care if it was interesting to them. It was interesting to me.
Yes. Yes. No questions? Nobody has any questions before we go?
Oh, wait, there are 2 comments that I haven't seen yet. Here we go. This is my friend Robert Androvic.
Hi, Robert.
Who is running for Supreme Court Justice here. We went to law school together.
Oh, good luck.
A great fellow. And actually, I'm broadcasting from a house of his now because my mom has choral rehearsal right now. So if we were there, we'd be hearing her.
Oh, that would be nice too.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this fellow again.
Yeah.
Says, great seeing you guys, and I want to be at that dinner. And Amelia sends love too. And you know Amelia.
Yeah. Well, let's make a party. Let's have a party.
We will. So this has been great. Thank you for being here. And I will talk to you probably very, very soon.
I hope so. Okay.
All right. And all of you out there, please remember to subscribe to this channel and click the bell icon when you do so that you get notifications of upcoming live streams. And also join me and my brother Tony this Wednesday, 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific, for our talk about the movie The Paper. And you've got plenty of time between now and then to watch it. So hope to see you there.